inside Gran Turismo 7 to sort of bring back a little series I was doing. I had the AI sort of do these custom races, but I had them as F1 drivers, and they were in GT3 class cars. They were our races, and the cars were representative of something similar to what they would have drove, like the Red Bulls or their Hondas, Mercedes cars, Aston Martin, Ferrari, all that good stuff. And now that the 2023 F1 season has indeed come to a close, I've decided to bring this back. I kind of only did, I think, 6 or 7 races with the last one, but this time I'm going to do at least one full season with it, so there's some racing going on. I've decided to set the grid in F123 final championship standings order. So Verstappen will be starting first, and Logan Sargent will be starting last. Only full-time drivers are on the grid, and Nick DeVries is not going to be participating. Neither is Paul DeVries, for anybody who actually saw the graphic at the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It'll be Daniel Ricciardo alongside Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. And since I can only have a 20-car grid and one of the cars has to be taken by me, Alfa Romeo only has one driver in Valtteri Bottas. Zhou Guanyu is not going to be in this grid. So for the quote-unquote Constructors' Championship, Alfa Romeo is not going to be able to win it, but they probably wouldn't have anyways. So without further ado, let's get underway. Verstappen leads into one. Alonso down the inside of Lewis Hamilton in turn 1. Can he make a move? Alonso up and into the podium. Makes quick work of Lewis Hamilton. All the cars are fully upgraded for this race to make it more fair. And we got a car around the outside. Who's that? That looks like it was George Russell. George Russell trying to make moves around the outside. Could not get by Oscar Piastri. Now Stroll gets through. After Verstappen pulls out a bit of a gap here at the start, looking to dominate yet another championship this season. Oh, and Kevin Magnussen, what a disappointment there. It looks like he'd gone off. Not a good day for Kevin Magnussen here. Fuel consumption will not be in effect in this race, this whole series, just tire wear. Charles Leclerc, can he go down the inside of Lewis Hamilton into one? They're fully alongside each other. Charles gets past, he's up into 4th. Lewis Hamilton unable to defend. Fernando Alonso makes the move on Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso up into 2nd, making quick work of the 2nd Red Bull driver. Can he get up to Max Verstappen? Looks like he might have got a little loose there, as I believe we have Kevin Magnussen, Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hülkenberg, George Russell, and Oscar Piastri all came down to the pits. They must have had damage from the first lap, shenanigans, and had to get repairs. Now Verstappen defends from Fernando Alonso. Pierre Gasly up into 6th in the pink Alpine. Williams pairing up in the points. Valtteri Bottas 49th to Danny Rick. Closing out the points. Carlos Sainz all the way back in with the rest of the pack here. Kevin Magnussen. Disappointing start for him, but he didn't have to pit, so he gets to catch up. Here comes Fernando Alonso. Can he make a move into the bus stop chicane? No, Verstappen stays in front. But for how much longer? And now Sergio Perez under attack from Charles. on Perez. Tucks in behind, he gets a slipstream. Perez defends. Now to turn one, Verstappen holds Fernando Alonso, but can he? Does Fernando sneak down the inside? No, he does not. Both Red Bulls hold position into turn one. As the top five have separated themselves from the rest of the pack quite effectively here. Pierre Gasly now up into 7th. Logan Sargent with the fastest lap. Max Verstappen 7/10 up in Sector 1 now. Let's introduce some car information here. Let's see. The early pitters who had to take care of damage seem to be on the hards with the rest of the field. Fernando Alonso has a slipstream. So does Leclerc. Can either of them make the move? Here goes Alonso. He moves right. But Verstappen manages to keep the lead for one more lap. Also, maybe a little off topic, that Ferrari with the Vegas livery, oh, that 458 looks really good. Alonso and Verstappen. Oh, so close. Can Fernando finally make a move? He's been waiting for a while. Here he comes. Alonso alongside Verstappen. Tucks back in. Verstappen takes the fastest lap of the race. Here comes Alonso. Does he go down the inside? There he goes! They're side by side into one. Fernando Alonso into the lead. What a move by Fernando Alonso. An incredible race. He's had a great season in Formula 1. Started 4th for this race, and he's already up in the lead on the 4th lap. Red Bull still occupies a double podium. They're going to want to hold on to that, but Charles Leclerc is right behind Perez, and Hamilton also still in the slipstream, not too far behind them. And if they all continue to fight, it's not impossible that Albon catches up. Looks like our fight here at the back is getting big. Oh, here goes Nico Hülkenberg. He spins. George Russell collects him. George Russell with damage on the front end as Nico Hülkenberg spins it around. It's been a disaster for both Haas cars here today. I think they're just going to forget about this one as Hülkenberg struggling to get back on the track. What a disappointment here. Poor Oscar Piastri stuck at the back of the pack. Hülkenberg goes around, caught that just at the right time. Alonso pulling away from Verstappen now. Leclerc might be looking to make a move. He's been behind Perez for a few laps now. But Leclerc has not been able to make a move on Perez. Here he goes. Is he going to go side by side with the Mexican driver? Just barely pokes a nose and Perez closes the door. Mexican Minister of Defense hard at work. There you can see Fernando Alonso pulling at a gap. Alex Albon catching up to Lewis Hamilton. Pierre Gasly now. 7, 8, 9th, and 10th. Here goes Logan Sargent. Does he make a move down the inside? Valtteri Bottas now holds the final point spot. Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Tsunoda, Norris. Can they catch back up to the points? George Russell exits the pits. Magnussen now overtakes his teammate. Here comes Hülkenberg. Fresh, hard tires out of the pits. In this championship, there is no required tires. You could run the same tire the whole race if it would last long enough. Hopefully at most tracks that won't be possible, but at tracks like Daytona with a lot of straight line, it could be very well possible. Aston Martin is insane today. Fernando Alonso with a huge gap on Max Verstappen. Aston Martin must have a great package for the straight line here. As Chuck Leclerc there is struggling a little bit to keep up with Perez now that Perez has a toe off of his teammate. The Red Bull side by side, Sergio Perez looks to steal second place from Max Verstappen. Through the chicane, they're side by side. Can Perez finally move? Yes, he does. Does Leclerc take this as a chance to get around Verstappen? Lewis Hamilton almost down the inside there. There he goes. Lewis Hamilton back around Leclerc on lap 6. He saw the opportunity and he made the most of it. Now Alexander Albon right on the back of Leclerc. Can he make a challenge up here for a top 5? Williams didn't have the greatest seasons in Formula 1, but here they've had a good start. Both Sargent and Albon running 6th and 7th right now, and Albon with a chance to potentially get up into the top 5 and maybe even the podium if he pushes hard enough. Fernando Alonso he has checked out officially. His fastest lap almost a second and a half quicker than Max Verstappen's previous lap. Look at the difference. Alonso now enters the chicane. Leclerc, is he down the inside of Lewis here into the chicane? Backs out of it last second. Alonso leads from Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Leclerc, Albon. The fight for the podium could be a real interesting one here later in the race. Could Lewis Hamilton make a bid for the podium? He's right behind the Red Bull cars as Alonso exits the hairpin. Everybody else enters it. Leclerc struggling. He got around Lewis early and he looked like he could fight the Red Bulls for a podium, but he seems to have stalled out recently. Verstappen looks like he's pulling out a gap on his teammate now. That would be bad news as Lewis Hamilton is right behind Perez. Here goes Alex Albon down the inside of Leclerc. Oh, he was right alongside and almost had P5. Had to back out at the last second. My question being now is, are we going to have pit stops here? The hard tires seem to be wearing a little bit, but is it feasible for these tires to make it all the way? The fight for the podium is huge. Here goes Albon down the inside of Leclerc. He's got a toe from Lewis Hamilton. Just Leclerc try to hang it around the outside of both Albon and Hamilton. Forced to the outside, and he's down to P6. Leclerc loses position. Albon there looked like he got a little loose out of the corner. His tires are wearing quicker than the rest of the field. Alonso has a relatively significant lead on the rest of the field right now. Yet his last lap was slower than Verstappen's previous lap. Could Max be making a charge back towards Alonso? And is Leclerc falling off the lead pack? It almost looks like he might not have a slipstream from Alex Albon. Albon now, that Williams car, that Jaguar, is incredibly quick in a straight line. Backs off. Lewis Hamilton, does he go for a move on Perez? Side by side. As they enter, Lewis backs out. If Albon gets a decent exit, he does not. He struggles for grip on the exit of the chicane. Does this give Leclerc a chance to make his way back around Albon? Or does the Williams have too much straight line? It is really quick in a straight. That Williams Jaguar. Going 180 miles an hour. Here goes Albon to the outside of Lewis Hamilton. He gets the move made. He's cleared. Alex Albon taking advantage of the incredible straight line pace of the Williams. Logan Sargent, in fact, starting to catch up to this group, also taking advantage of that incredible straight line pace from the Williams. Alexander Albon, one spot away from a podium. Fernando Alonso that time 3/10 slower than Perez, manages to be 1/10 quicker than Max Verstappen, maintaining his gap. If Alex Albon gets free of both Red Bulls, could he make a charge towards Fernando Alonso for the win? As we near, as we just passed the quarter point in this race, it is very apparent that new tires are going to be a requirement for all drivers. No one is going to manage to stay on a single set of tires for the whole race. Here comes Albon now. He's got a big slipstream on Perez. He has a straight line speed. He did this to get Lewis Hamilton before turn 1. Can he get around Checo before the chicane, or is he going to wait and set up another move down the main straight? He stays patient. Does he launch his move now? Leclerc, also behind Hamilton, might try and re-overtake him to take back his top 5. Here comes Albon now. Goes side by side with Perez. 179, 180. He's cleared Perez before the turn. Alex Albon up into the podium places. Charles tried to move down the inside of Lewis, but Lewis just managed to defend. Alexander Albon a whole second quicker than Fernando Alonso that lap. Can anything get in between this man and a potential win today? Logan Sargent catching up. We got a yellow flag. Where's that? It's Albon. Albon's off. It's a disaster for Alex Albon. We need to get a replay. What happened to Albon? Through the high-speed corner, he gets in the grass, loses the car, and plows it straight into the wall. That's such a disappointment. Albon was having such an incredible race. Lets his teammate get through, who's done a decent job of catching up to the field. Alex Albon, what a disappointment. And then he gets off the track again, loses it. What a disappointment. Oh, and he gets into Sainz, gives Sainz damage, and collects Lance Stroll. Alex Albon is a wrecking ball and taking everybody in his path with him. What a disappointment for the Thai British driver. He had a chance to easily at a podium, potentially to go for a win, and unfortunately, he's out of the running way too soon. That might open the door for Logan Sargent. He's slowly but surely been making his way up to this pack. If he can get there by the end of the race, he might be able to fight for a top 5, maybe a podium. As Lewis Hamilton now tries to make a move on Checo Perez. His car has not been quite quick enough in the straights for it, though. Here goes Chuck. Drivers hold their positions as Alonso manages to keep himself just about a tenth or two quicker than Max Verstappen. Sainz, Albon, both in the pits. Lance Stroll decides to stay out. I thought he had damage. Daniel Ricciardo up to P7 as a result of all of this crazy stuff going on. Max Verstappen holding his own in P2. He knows that if he can do a little better on tires than Fernando, he might be able to cut a pit stop out of his race. Cars are reaching roughly the halfway tire wear mark now. Lewis, trying to go around the outside of Sergio Perez, does not have enough speed. And Leclerc trying to hang on. Lewis backing out of another move into the chicane. The bus stop here. Charles Leclerc is just waiting for the perfect opportunity to try and take 4th place back from Lewis. He got it early in the race. Has not been able to retrieve that position since Lewis took it away. And it doesn't look like Charles will have it again anytime soon. It's Sergio Perez. Tries the inside of his teammate into one again. Verstappen stays relevant around the outside. He knows that if he can just hold his position, that he becomes the beneficiary of the inside line, manages to keep Perez behind him without an issue. Charles finally gets around Lewis there. He has been waiting 4, 5, 6 laps at this point to get back around Lewis after being re-overtaken. Now Charles may attempt to launch an attack on the Red Bulls. Verstappen again, now just shy of a tenth slower than Fernando Alonso there. That gap's somewhere in the 6 to 7 second range. Here's Charles Leclerc now. He's got a good run on Sergio Perez. Can he make anything of it? Is that Ferrari going to be quick enough in a straight line to make a move going down into 1? He's holding back at the moment. Charles unable to make a move yet. Alonso's tires are starting to really show some wear, although his pace has not really fallen off too badly up until about last lap. Verstappen there, 2/10 slower than Alonso last lap. Lewis Hamilton lost his position to Leclerc now. Leclerc now. Down the back stretch. Heading towards the chicane. Does he have anything for Sergio Perez? And man, did these GT3 cars sound much better than the F1 cars we have today. Leclerc stays on the back bumper of Perez through the first part of the chicane. Gets a good exit. Will he get a good enough run down into one, or does Perez have just good enough of a tow from his teammate to stay in third place? Checo's not been doing Max any favors with all these turn one attempts to take the lead, so I wouldn't be surprised if Max doesn't put in too much effort towards helping his teammate retain a podium. But with Lance Stroll down in 8th, this is Red Bull's big chance, with how fast that car seems to be, to attempt to take the constructors' lead. Fernando Alonso there, somewhat about 6-7 slower than Max Verstappen. Alonso's really starting to feel that tire wear. All the cars behind are starting to catch up. Alonso's got the worst tires out of anybody, really. Leclerc's doing a little better than the Red Bulls on tires, so maybe he could use that to his advantage. Logan Sargent again, slowly but surely chipping away at that gap. Not making any mistakes like his poor teammate did while running up in like 3rd place. That must have been utter heartbreak and disappointment for poor Alex Albon. Leclerc fell off of Perez a little bit there. He's got to be careful. Lewis has been able to get around him before this race. And Lewis is doing a little better on tires. In the rears, not in the front. Alonso now exiting the chicane. Verstappen just getting through it. Alonso 2.3 seconds slower than his fastest. Verstappen only 1 second slower than his fastest. Without Perez fighting him, Max has been able to put some pretty competitive lap times out there. Alonso sets a 1:51.6. Verstappen, 1:51.6. He's just barely less than a tenth slower. Leclerc, again, unable to make a move, but he goes for the later phase of the corner. Squeezes his way in. Here he goes around Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc finally makes a move after 15 laps of waiting and trying. He's finally made his way up into the podium positions. Now can he get around Max Verstappen? Max doesn't have a tow from anybody in front, so this is Chuck's best shot here. He's just got to wait for a straight. Leclerc has to be happy with that one. Perez down to 4th. Now going to have to fight with Lewis again. This time not for 4th, this time for 5th. As Logan Sargent right there in the background, not too far behind, coming through that corner as the rest of the grid is already on the straight, or the rest of the pack. But that Williams, good lord, awful on tires. Can Logan hold on and make it to the halfway point on that tire and take another hard? That looks like the strategy, hard here. Hopefully next race at Road Atlanta it's not quite the same. Here goes Leclerc on Verstappen. Verstappen goes off track. Verstappen runs wide. Oh, crazy. This is the sound of music to Fernando Alonso, who's going to gain about 3 seconds on that pack now as they all got slowed down. Verstappen went wildly off track trying to defend. Leclerc cannot be happy with that. fact, that made Logan Sargent that much closer here. Sargent almost caught up to the pack completely, nearly has the tow. Verstappen just cost his whole pack some more grief. They've got another competitor. Perez shoots it down the inside of Leclerc at the hairpin. Sergio Perez back into the podium places. What a move from Sergio Perez. Unexpected late dive bomb from the Mexican. Oh, Leclerc gets loose. Here goes Lewis Hamilton down the inside. Oh, it's all going horribly for Charles here. He tries to hang it around the outside. Tire wear has really gotten to Charles there. Logan Sargent. He's nearing a puncture in the right rear. He's just trying to stay out as long as possible to stay relevant. You can see him sliding out of that final corner there before we hit the back straight. Verstappen went from nearly losing P2 to Charles going down to 5th. 3rd to 5th in one lap. If I was Ferrari, I'd have him boxing this lap. Alonso looks like he's got enough tire to at least make it a few more laps. As does Verstappen. Leclerc looks to have enough tire to go a little longer, but he might have to come down if he's struggling as bad as he is. Alonso stays out. But does Logan Sargent have to come in? And if he does he get an undercut advantage on the pack in front of him? Logan Sargent stays out. He will indeed pull a one-stop unless he manages not to keep that car on the racing surface. Leclerc looked like he might try to go back down the inside of Lewis after losing so many spots. Fails. Logan Sargent is there. The American driver is right there with him now. It's taken him 17 laps, but he has caught up to the podium pack. You can really see him start to struggle with those tires. If I'm Williams, I'm pitting him this lap, and I'm going to see if we can undercut these 4 cars right here. At least 1 or 2 of them, if not 3. These guys all could go a little longer. Not Logan Sargent. He needs fresh tires before he ends up falling to the same fate as his teammate, Alex Albon, who was hopefully looking for a recovery drive here. Here he is running P11. His tire, right rear, is completely dead. Really struggling out of the corner. A fully dead tire for Albon. Sargent now has a dead tire. Will he come down this lap? I'm going to have to say he's going to need to come down. His tire could at any moment just blow. Same problem with Albon now. Sargent caught up to the pack, but he's going to lose the pack now. Just too much tire wear. Does Alonso pit this lap? We're at the halfway point. Alonso electing to stay out. Verstappen and Perez, Leclerc and Hamilton. Anyone taker for the pit lane? Logan Sargent in the pits. This will have to be a quick stop for Logan Sargent if he wants to try and undercut the cars in front of him. And what tires will they put on it? I am going to have to go with they're going to use hards. Lewis Hamilton gets around Sergio Perez. Caught us all off guard. Lewis Hamilton up to the podium now. First time he's been on the podium since pretty much the start of the race. Logan Sargent now comes out ahead of Yuki Tsunoda with a fresh set of hards on that car. Can anybody extend their original hard tire long enough to go to a medium to the end of this race? Or it'll be hards to hards for the whole field. Albon now, also on a fresh hard. He's down in 15th, looking to make a recovery drive as we said earlier. Alonso's tire almost dead. Will he pit this lap or try and go 1 lap longer? He can't really afford too much of a mistake. Sergio Perez now in 4th. Lewis. Could he be making a move on Verstappen? We haven't seen a real true Lewis versus Max fight since the 2021 season in Formula 1. As the sun starts to go down here in Florida at the Daytona beach. Daytona International Speedway, I guess, but this is the road course, so it's not really much of a speedway. Here's Lewis. He tries to get alongside, but he does not have a quick enough car in the straight to make the move on Verstappen. Alonso now has elected to at least do one more lap on his tire. Will that end up being a death sentence or exactly what he needed? Looking in at Logan Sargent now, catching up to Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to want to get around Danny Rick as soon as possible because the longer he stays in dirty air fighting with slower cars, the worse it'll end up for him. And I don't know when the AlphaTauri is going to pit. But Sargent had a hell of an outlap there, set a good little 149. He's going to look to set the quickest lap times possible in an attempt to undercut these guys who are staying out just a little longer, want that fresh tire advantage later. They're all in their own battle. But you can see their pace is dropping off. Logan Sargent may have pulled off a really powerful undercut. He's now caught up to Danny Rick. Nat Williams is really quick in a straight. He very well may be able to get a move made before they get to the bus stop, and if not, definitely down the front stretch. Logan Sargent only scored 1 point in the Formula 1 season this year. This GT3 championship seems to be a good opportunity to make up for a potentially lackluster performance. Does he go down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo? He pokes a nose in. Does not compromise his exit. Gets a great exit of the bus stop. Alonso is in the pits. Verstappen stays out. Perez stays out. Leclerc, Hamilton in the pits. They're going to try and go for a one-lap undercut on the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls stay out for one more lap. Logan Sargent now looks to make his move on Danny Ricciardo. Danny Rick is blocking. They drop the gun. Alonso is on the pit, in the pit exit now. Fernando Alonso rejoins the circuit in P3. Logan Sargent tried the undercut, but he got held up by a little bit of lap traffic and was unable to catch back up to the front runners podium pack there. Did Lewis and Leclerc not come down for tires? They did pit. Lewis and Charles, neither of them got new tires. Did neither of them get tires? What happened to them? They both had damage and they decided to pit. They didn't take tires, they only repaired damage. Both Ferrari and Mercedes looking like absolute bozos on strategy with that call. They're going to have to come down a lap later to take tires. That is going to be incredible news for Logan Sargent, who goes off track. Oh no, and he's into the wall! It's the same fate for both Williams today. It looks so good for Logan Sargent, and commentators curse now. As he rejoins the circuit in P9, gonna need to come down the pit lane for damage repair. Good news for Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, who look likely to be unrivaled for second and third place in today's race. Verstappen leads. Alonso not far behind, has already made his pit stop. Lando Norris has gone very long on that set of hards. He's the only driver on the grid besides his teammate Piastri that actually has a quote-unquote F1 car. It's just a McLaren F1, but still. Also, I am aware that the banner on that car does say McLaren Honda. It was the best looking livery and it couldn't be edited, so I just settled for it. Alright, Perez, Verstappen down the pits. Leclerc and Hamilton will both get by, but neither of them have tires that'll make the end of this race. They're going to be in a fight with Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas. Alex Albon has got new tires. How quick is this McLaren on this track? Just like the Williams, insanely quick on straights, that McLaren. Hamilton and Leclerc are still out. As the sun starts to go away, which one of these two drivers are going to come down on this lap? Leclerc's got a dead tire, so he has to come in. Lewis might try and milk his right rear for another lap. Here comes Leclerc. Down the pit lane. He should have got tires when he repaired his damage, but you know Ferrari, they're an absolute team of clowns when it comes to strategy. Fernando Alonso leads from Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez. We cannot get a safety car in this championship. It is a green and local yellow only. If you spin out or a crash happens, it's tough luck. Let's check in with the Haas cars who've been struggling today. Kevin Magnussen sits 19th on his way into the pits. Hulkenberg currently 14th with the Haas Dodge Vipers. It is a good looking car, that Haas. Nice livery on that Dodge. But as the American team, they have more than just the Dodge Vipers and an option for American cars. If the Viper disappoints again round 2, they might switch to the Corvette. Fernando Alonso continues to lead with 20 minutes left in the race. He's been unrivaled since he took the lead today. We hope to see a little bit more of an interesting strategy race next time out. As Max Verstappen just about has gapped Sergio Perez as much as he'll need to. Yuki Tsunoda is going to come down for tires this lap. Charles Leclerc's teammate Carlos Sainz catching up, but he needs to pit for tires. But can Sainz pit for a softer compound than the hard? Knowing that Ferrari team, they'll throw him on a hard or a wet tire. Here comes Lewis Hamilton down into the pits. He has lost a lot of time. Something happened to him? He has lost the position to Leclerc and to Sainz temporarily. Daniel Ricciardo now potentially in a fight with Lewis Hamilton. Lance Stroll has made his way back up to the points. Alex Albon fighting now to try and gather back some points that he lost with his disappointing crash from earlier. Logan Sargent running as high as 6th today. Ended up in the wall and losing his shot at a top 5 or even better. Lando Norris with an extremely impressive first stint on that hard tire. Takes that tire 23 whole laps, nearly 43 minutes on a single tire. That's quite impressive, if I do say so myself. Will the team bolt on something other than the hard, though? Science now is going to come down. Here comes Lando Norris. They're going to trade in that old set of hard tires for a fresh set. As I'd said before this race, yeah, Alfa Romeo wasn't going to score points anyways. Norris onto a fresh set of hards. So is Sainz. Fernando Alonso leading at Daytona. Lando Norris running P2 after a brilliant strategy with 23 laps on the hard tire. Lando Norris comes from nowhere to take away second place for Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc has caught up. I don't know how, but somehow he's found his way back up despite making an extra pit stop. I don't know where Red Bull messed up, but surely they did something wrong if Charles is still relevant after making an extra pit stop. Lando Norris looking to run away from these guys. His gap to Fernando Alonso is far too great for him to have a shot at catching up, unless Alonso makes a mistake. But Lando looking like a runaway candidate for P2 at this point. Daniel Ricciardo potentially catching up with Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, and Nico Hülkenberg, who is now up into the points for Haas, potentially following. Max Verstappen would love to hold on to his podium position, but with his teammate and Leclerc fighting him for it, it is possible that he does lose it. Let's go on board with Leclerc. Both Red Bulls getting a little up close and personal there. Lando Norris here, your runaway candidate for P2 today. The qualifying grid will be based on previous race results. Or we might just do it based on championship standings at this point. That McLaren incredibly quick. He was 4/10 quicker, almost 5, pretty much 5/10 quicker than Fernando Alonso. And in fact, actually on the last lap, he was 6 or 7/10 quicker than Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris is flying 180 without a slipstream. While his car is incredibly quick on the straights, that McLaren does tend to struggle a little bit more in the corners, comparatively against its rivals. Just over 10 minutes to go in the race. Charles will be looking to try and secure a podium for Ferrari. He doesn't have much more than 4, maybe 5 laps, possibly 6, to get around both Red Bulls. Doesn't have forever. And Daniel Ricciardo taking Albon with him, not far behind. What happened to Lewis Hamilton? He is down into 11th. He's slipping back and falling down the order. So did Bottas, unless he only just pitted. Nico Hülkenberg, on the other hand, is running 8th. Albon's back up into 7th. If he can get around Ricciardo and make his way back up, he isn't incredibly far away from this podium pack. If he could fight his way back up after a bad crash to end up on the podium, that would be one of the most incredible drives ever. Leclerc gets a bad exit from the bus stop here. Alexander Albon, let's go on board. Albon is through into 6th place now. Just has to fight his way back up. He is just behind Leclerc. 2 laps, and I say he has the tow. Nico Hülkenberg running P8 now. Leclerc is going to need to get around these Red Bulls fast. He's going to have that threat from Albon looming over his head here quite shortly. And Albon might just take Danny Rick with him. Both Albon and Danny Rick, former Red Bull drivers. Here goes Leclerc now. He is side by side. Backs out of it before he makes too much of a move here. Gets a good exit out of the bus stop this time. But Albon, he's there. Albon is there. Verstappen has pulled a little bit of a gap to the other two that are fighting him at the moment with Perez and Leclerc. But here comes Albon. Leclerc now looking to get around Sergio Perez, but here comes Alex Albon. He is right there. His car is so quick in a straight line today. All it takes is one good exit from a corner, and he has Charles on a straight. Charles is in dire need of a move on Perez if he wants to salvage his hopes and dreams of a podium tonight. Lando Norris now, having an incredible race. He's in a league of his own. If he had a better start, he could have challenged Alonso for a win today. The high-speed tracks seem to suit this McLaren quite well. The Red Bulls, looks like they're going to like the higher downforce tracks this season. They still had a great race here at Daytona, though. Verstappen with a podium at the moment. Leclerc runs a little wide, trying to get better exit speed than Perez, possibly. He cannot afford a single slip-up because here comes Albon. Albon now gets to the quarter panel. Does he go for the move? He backs out, doesn't make the move. Perez now right on Verstappen's tail. Checo knew that he has to do something immediately if he wants to keep himself ahead of Albon. Leclerc going for a little bit of clean air here. But that means Albon has a tow, and is Albon going to give Leclerc room? No, he is not! Alexander Albon up into 5th now. Side by side with Sergio Perez, he's up into 4th. He's going to force Perez to the outside. Is Charles going to make... No, he's not going to be able to make a move. Does not take advantage. In fact, Daniel Ricciardo goes around Charles Leclerc for P6. Daniel Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri, having an insane race. He's now caught up to Sergio Perez. He's trying to steal his seat. Max Verstappen loses his podium to Alexander Albon. All Albon has to do now is hold on for a few more laps. Don't wreck the car again like you did last time you were running in the podium, Alex, and it's all yours. Lando Norris is too far ahead for Alex to challenge, I'm pretty sure. But Albon's having one a hell of a day. Steals the podium from the Red Bull pairing. Leclerc fights his way back around Daniel Ricciardo, who is not going to steal Perez's seat this weekend, at least. I'm not saying he won't at all, just not this weekend. Fernando Alonso's having a lovely, quiet day. He's been quite lonely. Logan Sargent has made his way back up to 10th. He will have a point to show for his efforts today, as long as he can keep it ahead of Oscar Piastri. Alonso now crosses the line to enter the penultimate lap. Daniel Ricciardo back around the outside of Charles Leclerc. He wants P6 and now he wants P5, but he doesn't have the inside line quite yet. He does clear Charles now, but I don't know if he can get around Perez. Charles has a tow, and Danny did not. He tries to go around the outside, but that opens the door for Leclerc. Looking for an opportunistic move to take sixth back. He gets it. Oh, does Leclerc try and go around Perez? No, he does not. He's just glad that he got to hold his position on Ricciardo there. Some of these guys are on their final lap now. This podium pack very well may be on their current last lap. Lando Norris getting hunted by Alex Albon. If the pair of them have one more lap, it could be interesting to see just how close Albon gets to Norris. The Williams a little slower than the McLaren on the straight, but a little better in the corners here. Max Verstappen will be disappointed by the fact that he does not get a podium to show for this race, but the next track should better suit the Red Bull, as we will be at Road Atlanta, which is a track that definitely favors a better handling setup. Fernando Alonso across the line, final lap for Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris now comes across the line to start his final lap. Albon across the line to start his final lap. Max Verstappen across the line to start his last lap, along with Perez and Leclerc, who's making his move finally. Daniel Ricciardo. Nico Hülkenberg is pitting. For what for? The race is over for him. Nico Hülkenberg finishes 11th because the team fumbles. The team's just made a huge fumble. Nico Hülkenberg finishes last because he's getting tires for no good reason. Carlos Sainz, the first car to finish. Charles Leclerc goes down the inside of Max Verstappen. He's finally got around both Red Bulls, but it's not in time for a podium. Charles waited, pulled out the stops on that final lap. He said, I'm not staying behind the Red Bulls any longer, and he makes two incredible moves to take fourth. Lando Norris holds off Alex Albon for P2. Fernando Alonso now coming through the last few corners for the win. Sergio Perez, could he be under attack from Daniel Ricciardo here coming into the chicane? Not quite. Here comes Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso wins in Daytona. Lando Norris through turn 4 of the oval enters the tri-oval. Lando Norris will sit beside Alonso on the podium. Alexander Albon with an incredible recovery stands third. Charles Leclerc with an incredible move on the last lap gets fourth. Verstappen fifth, Perez sixth, Daniel Ricciardo seventh, Carlos Sainz eighth, Logan Sargent ninth, and Oscar Piastri rounds out your top 10 for point scorers. Nico Hülkenberg is still in the pits. They decided not to service the car. Haas gets the we were so close and yet so far award for finishing 11th and 12th. Lance Stroll finished 13th while his teammate won. Lewis Hamilton fell like a ton of bricks. He was so relevant at the first part of the race, and now he's ended up 14th. That's really not going to help him in this championship. Pierre Gasly ends up 15th, Tsunoda ends up 16th, Bottas 17th, George Russell 18th, and Esteban Ocon 19th. Alpine had a shocker. So did Mercedes. George Russell, P18. Lewis Hamilton, P14. Not Mercedes' day, let me tell you that. Put it together for Fernando Alonso. Your winner at Daytona. It was a great drive from Fernando. He had a great start, and he just managed to stay out front the whole way. Well, there I am getting the car back around the track to finish this one off. There you have it, Fernando Alonso. Your winner at Daytona. Lando Norris sits second place. Albon third. What an incredible and exciting race there as Leclerc late moves on both Red Bull cars. And he manages P4. If he hadn't made that extra stop, I wonder where he could have ended up. Lewis made the same extra stop, and Lewis ended up 14th. I think Sergio Perez will be paying a lot of attention here in the next few races, as Daniel Ricciardo was only one spot behind him. Other talking points, Logan Sargent in the points. Sainz manages to recover a P8 finish, and Oscar Piastri with 10th. To all of you who've watched, I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you next time at Road Atlanta.